My son's wife said, "Your mom is here too often. She's interfering with our family. Kick her out." My son said nothing. I silently stood up and left and canceled all the mortgage payments for their house. That same morning, he knocked on my door. "I'm glad you're here with me. Please like this video and listen to my story till the end, and let me know which city you're listening from. That way, I can see how far my story has traveled." I had always believed that family meant forever. For 32 years, I raised my son Daniel as a single mother after his father walked out on us. I worked 2 jobs, morning shifts at the hospital as a nurse, evenings cleaning offices, just to make sure Daniel had everything he needed. When he graduated from college, I cried tears of joy. When he married Jessica 3 years ago, I welcomed her with open arms, believing I was gaining a daughter, not losing a son. The trouble started small, almost invisible. 6 months ago, Jessica began making little comments. "Oh, Margaret, you really don't need to come over every Sunday," she'd say with a tight smile. "We're trying to establish our own family traditions." I laughed it off, reducing my visits to every other week. Then it became once a month, but I still helped them. When they bought their dream house 18 months ago, they were short on the down payment. Daniel came to me, his eyes full of hope and desperation. "Mom, I know it's a lot to ask." I didn't hesitate. I liquidated my retirement savings and helped them with $50,000 for the down payment. But that wasn't all. Their combined income barely qualified them for the mortgage. So I did something Daniel asked me to keep quiet about. I agreed to co-sign and cover half the monthly mortgage payments, $1,500 every month. "Just until we get on our feet, Mom," Daniel promised. "Jessica's getting a promotion soon, and we'll take over everything." That promotion never came. 18 months later, I was still paying. Not that I minded. Daniel was my son, my only child. What else was my money for if not to help him build his life? But Jessica didn't know about my payments. Daniel said it would be easier that way, that Jessica was proud and wouldn't accept charity. I trusted his judgment. Last Sunday, everything shattered. I had stopped by to drop off a birthday gift for Daniel, a watch his father had given him as a baby newly restored. I knocked, but the door was ajar. I could hear voices inside, tense and angry. I shouldn't have walked in, but something in Jessica's tone froze me in the doorway. "Your mother is here too often, Daniel. She's suffocating us. Every time I turn around, she's dropping by with food, with gifts, with advice I didn't ask for. This is our house, our marriage, our life." I stood in the hallway, the small wrapped box heavy in my hands. Daniel's response was quiet, almost inaudible. "Jess, she means well. She's just, I don't care what she means." Jessica's voice rose to a shrill pitch. "She's interfering with our family. She treats this place like it's still her house, like she has some claim on our life. I want her out, Daniel. Tell her to stop coming. Better yet, you tell her she's not welcome anymore." My heart hammered against my ribs. I waited for Daniel to defend me, to remind Jessica of everything I'd sacrificed, everything I'd done. The silence stretched out thick and suffocating. "You're right," Daniel finally said, his voice hollow. "I'll talk to her." Something inside me cracked. Not broke, cracked. Like ice over a frozen lake spiderweb out in every direction. I had given this boy everything. I had worked until my hands ached and my feet burned. I had poured my life savings into their dream home. And he couldn't even defend me. I didn't storm in. I didn't cry or shout. I simply stepped backward quietly and set the gift on their porch. Then I walked to my car, my vision blurring, my hands trembling so badly I could barely grip the steering wheel. When I got home to my small apartment, I sat in the dark for a long time. How had I become the villain in their story? What had I done, except love my son too much? But as the shock faded, something else rose up inside me. Something cold and clear and razor sharp. They wanted me out of their lives. They wanted their independence. Fine, they could have it. All of it. I opened my laptop, logged into my bank account, and stared at the automatic payment scheduled for the 1st of next month. $1,500, 18 months of payments, $27,000 I had already given them. With one click, I canceled it. Then I sat back and waited for morning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, my mind racing through calculations I'd been avoiding for 18 months. The numbers were staggering. $50,000 for the down payment, $27,000 in mortgage payments. But it wasn't just the money, though God knows that hurt enough. It was the birthday gifts, the groceries I'd bought, when I knew they were stretched thin, the furniture I'd helped them pick out and paid for as a housewarming present, the new washing machine when theirs broke, Daniel's car repair that insurance didn't quite cover. I got up at 3:00 in the morning and made myself tea with shaking hands. My small apartment suddenly felt impossibly quiet. For 18 months, I'd convinced myself I was building a bridge to my son's new life. Now I realized I'd been building a bridge they were planning to burn. The hurt was immense, a physical ache in my chest. But beneath the hurt, something harder was forming. I'd spent 32 years being soft, being giving, being the mother who sacrificed everything. Where had it gotten me? Dismissed, disrespected, erased from their gratitude like I was nothing more than an inconvenience. By dawn, my tears had dried. I opened my laptop again and began documenting everything. I was a nurse. I knew how to keep meticulous records. I pulled up bank statements going back 2 years. Every payment, every transfer, every gift over $100. I created a spreadsheet. The total made me feel sick. $83,000. Nearly my entire retirement savings gone, but I was still on that mortgage. I checked the paperwork. Daniel had asked me to sign documents I'd barely read because I trusted my son. There it was. My name right next to his and Jessica's. I was equally liable for that loan. If they defaulted, my credit would be destroyed along with theirs. How had I been so naive? My phone rang at 7:30. Daniel. I stared at his name on the screen, letting it ring and ring. Finally, it went to voicemail. He didn't leave a message. Good. I wasn't ready to hear his excuses yet. I needed to think clearly, strategically. This wasn't about revenge, or at least I told myself it wasn't. This was about protecting myself. I was 63 years old. I'd worked my entire life, and now my retirement was gutted because I'd believed in family loyalty. If I continued paying their mortgage, I'd have nothing left for myself. And for what? So Jessica could tell me I wasn't welcome. So Daniel could stand silent while his wife disrespected me. I made myself breakfast, forcing down toast I couldn't taste. Then I called the bank. I need to speak to someone about a mortgage I'm co-signed on. I said, my voice steadier than I felt. The mortgage officer was professional, but clear. As a co-signer, you have the right to receive payment information and statements. You're equally responsible for the loan, which means you have certain protections under the agreement. And if I stop making payments, I asked, then the primary borrowers are responsible for the full amount. If they can't pay, the loan goes into default after 90 days. 90 days, 3 months before their perfect house, their perfect life came crashing down. What if I wanted to remove myself from the mortgage, I asked? You'd need to refinance with the lender's approval, which requires the primary borrowers to qualify on their own. Or you could request to be removed if they can prove sufficient income without you. I already knew they couldn't. Daniel's job as a junior accountant paid decently, but not enough. And Jessica worked part-time at a boutique. Together, they'd been honest on their original application. They needed my income to qualify. Thank you, I said. That's very helpful. After I hung up, I sat very still. The plan was forming, crystallizing. I wouldn't be cruel. I wouldn't be vengeful. I would simply stop enabling them. I would stop being the invisible safety net they took for granted, but I needed to protect myself legally. I called my friend Patricia, who'd retired from a law firm 5 years ago. Patty, I need a lawyer recommendation. Family financial matter. She heard something in my voice. Margaret, are you okay? I will be, I said. And for the first time since yesterday, I believed it. By noon, I had an appointment scheduled with an attorney for Wednesday, 3 days away. 3 days to prepare my documentation, gather my evidence, and decide exactly how far I was willing to go. My phone buzzed again. Daniel. Then a text. Mom, can we talk? Important. I turned my phone face down on the table. Let him wait. I'd waited 18 months for gratitude that never came. Wednesday arrived with unseasonable cold. I dressed carefully for my attorney appointment. My navy suit, pearl earrings, low heels, professional, composed. Not the desperate old woman my son and his wife apparently thought I was. The law office was in a renovated brownstone downtown. Robert Chen, the attorney Patricia had recommended, was younger than I expected, maybe 40, with sharp eyes and a firm handshake. Mrs. Morrison, please sit down. Patricia spoke highly of you. I handed him the folder I'd prepared. I need to understand my legal position and my options. He spent 20 minutes reading through my documentation, the co-signing agreement, my bank statements, the payment history. His expression remained neutral, but I saw his jaw tighten. Mrs. Morrison, did your son and daughter-in-law know you were making these payments? My son knew his wife didn't, or so he told me, and they never formalized any repayment agreement with you. No, Daniel said it was temporary. Just until we get on our feet, he said. The words tasted bitter now. Robert leaned back in his chair. You have several options, none of them pleasant. First, you can continue paying and consider this a gift. No, he nodded. Second, you can stop paying and let them handle the mortgage themselves. As co-signer, this puts your credit at risk if they default. I've already stopped the automatic payments. His eyebrows rose slightly. When Sunday night, have they noticed yet my son has called 6 times? I haven't answered. Robert made a note. Third option, and this is the nuclear one. You could petition to force a sale of the property if they can't refinance without you. Given that you've provided substantial financial support that was never formalized as a loan, you might have grounds to claim a stake in the equity. My hands tightened on my purse. Would that hold up, maybe? It would be messy, expensive, and it would destroy your relationship with your son permanently. I think my daughter-in-law has already accomplished that. He studied me for a long moment. Mrs. Morrison, I'll be frank. This is family court territory, and family court is brutal. Are you sure you want to go down this road? I thought of Jessica's voice. Tell her she's not welcome anymore. I thought of Daniel's silence. I want to protect myself, I said quietly. I've given them everything. I won't let them take my security too. Then here's what I recommend. Let them come to you. You've stopped paying. Eventually, probably within days, they'll realize the money isn't coming. They'll panic. When they do, you'll have leverage. We'll draft a formal agreement. Either they refinance and remove you from the mortgage, or they start repaying you for the payments you've made. What if they can't refinance, then they sell or you force the sale? But Mrs. Morrison, it won't come to that. This is about establishing boundaries and protecting your assets. Sometimes people need a wake-up call to appreciate what they've taken for granted. I left his office with a retainer agreement signed and a plan in motion. Robert would draft the formal demand letter, but we'd wait. Let them sweat first. That evening, Daniel showed up at my apartment. I heard his knock, rapid, urgent, and considered not answering. But I'd never been a coward. I opened the door. He looked terrible. His hair was disheveled, his tie loose. Mom, thank God. You haven't been answering your phone. I've been busy. We need to talk. Can I come in? I stepped aside. He walked past me into my small living room, then turned, running his hands through his hair. Mom, something's wrong with the mortgage payment. The bank called Jessica today saying it's late. Did something happen with your account? I sat down in my armchair, folding my hands in my lap. Nothing happened with my account. I stopped the payment. The color drained from his face. I canceled the automatic transfer Sunday night to be precise. But Mom, you can't just... We're counting on that money. The mortgage is due. Then I suggest you pay it. He stared at me like I'd grown a second head. Mom, what's going on? Are you sick? Are you having some kind of... I'm perfectly well, Daniel. I'm just done being your secret bank account. His mouth opened and closed. This is about Sunday, isn't it? You were there? You heard Jessica. Yes, Mom. She was just upset. She didn't mean, didn't she? I kept my voice calm level because it sounded very much like she meant every word, and you stood there and agreed with her. I was trying to de-escalate. You know how Jessica gets when she's what, ungrateful, cruel? That's not fair, isn't it? I stood up, my composure cracking just slightly. I've paid $27,000 toward your mortgage, Daniel. $27,000, not counting the $50,000 for your down payment, not counting everything else I've given you. And your wife wants me out of your life because I'm interfering. She doesn't know about the payments. Then perhaps you should tell her. He looked panicked now. Mom, please. We can't afford the mortgage without your help. Not yet. Jessica's hours got cut at the boutique, and there were some unexpected expenses. That's not my problem anymore. Please. His voice broke. Don't do this. We need you. You need my money, I corrected. There's a difference. The next morning, they both came. I heard the aggressive knocking at 8:00 a.m. and knew before I opened the door that Jessica would be there. I took my time making coffee, letting them knock. Finally, I opened it. Jessica pushed past me without invitation. She was dressed for work, her makeup immaculate, but her eyes were hard. Daniel followed, looking like he hadn't slept. We need to talk. Jessica said, not even pretending at courtesy. Now Daniel told me everything about the payments, about the down payment, about everything you've been holding over our heads. I closed the door slowly. Holding over your heads. Is that how you see help? She laughed sharp and bitter. You call it help. You've been secretly paying our mortgage so you could control us, so you'd have leverage. That's manipulation. Margaret, not help. I see. So when Daniel came to me, begging for money because you two couldn't afford the house, you wanted that was manipulation. We would have found another way, would you? I moved past her to my kitchen, pouring coffee with steady hands. Because from where I stand, you've been living in a house you can't afford with furniture. I bought driving a car I helped repair, and somehow I'm the villain for making it possible. Daniel stepped forward. Mom, please. We can work this out. Just give us some time to figure out the finances. You've had 18 months. Jessica's face flushed red. You want to know the truth, Daniel felt guilty. That's the only reason we let this go on so long. You've been guilting him his whole life, making him feel like he owes you for raising him. That's what parents are supposed to do, Margaret. You don't get a medal for basic parenting. The words hit like a slap. I set my coffee cup down carefully before my hands could shake. I see. Basic parenting. Is that what you call working 2 jobs so my son could have clothes without holes? Is that what you call skipping meals so he could take the school trip I couldn't afford? Is that basic? That was your choice. Daniel didn't ask to be born. The silence that followed was arctic. Daniel's face went white. Jess, that's too far. Is it? Jessica turned on him. You've let her control your life for 32 years. When does it end, Daniel? When we're 60 and she's still showing up uninvited, still expecting gratitude for every little thing she's ever done. I looked at my son. Really? Looked at him. The boy I'd raised was gone. In his place stood a man who couldn't meet my eyes. "Get out," I said quietly. Jessica's eyes flashed triumphantly. "Gladly. But first we need that payment back on schedule. We have a contract." "No," I said, "we have a mortgage agreement that I co-signed, but there's no contract obligating me to pay your share. Check with your lawyer if you don't believe me. I already have." That stopped her cold. You got a lawyer I did yesterday. Would you like his number? I'm sure he'd be happy to explain your legal position, which I should mention is quite precarious." Daniel found his voice. "Mom, you wouldn't what, protect myself? Watch you lose the house." I picked up my coffee again, my hands now perfectly steady. "I haven't decided yet, but I know what I won't do anymore. I won't be disrespected in the home I helped you buy. I won't be called manipulative for loving my son, and I won't continue paying for a life I'm not welcome to be part of." Jessica's face twisted. "You're really going to destroy your own son's life out of spite?" "No, Jessica. You did that when you decided I was the enemy. I'm just refusing to fund it anymore." She stepped closer, her voice dropping to something ugly. "You're a bitter old woman, Margaret. You couldn't keep a husband, so you suffocated your son instead. And now you're alone, because that's what you deserve." The words were designed to wound. They did. But I'd worked in emergency rooms for 30 years. I'd been screamed at, threatened, insulted by people in pain. I knew how to stand my ground. "Get out of my home," I said, "both of you." Daniel reached for me. "Mom," I said, "get out." They left. The door slammed behind them. I stood in my kitchen holding my coffee cup, my whole body trembling now that they couldn't see it. The cup rattled against the saucer. I set it down before it fell. Then I sat down at my kitchen table and cried. Not pretty tears, ugly, choking sobs that hurt my chest. Because despite everything, he was still my son. And Jessica's words, cruel as they were, had found their mark. "You're alone, because that's what you deserve." Was I? Had I really smothered him? Had love become control without me realizing it? But then I remembered Sunday, remembered his silence, remembered 18 months of payments he'd hidden from his wife to protect his pride while accepting my money. Anyway, I wiped my face, blew my nose, and made a decision. I needed space from this distance clarity. I called my supervisor at the hospital and requested a week of personal time. Then I booked a flight to visit my college roommate, Sarah, in Arizona. She'd been asking me to visit for years. I needed to breathe, to think, to remember who I was before I became only Daniel's mother. When I boarded the plane 3 days later, my phone was full of angry texts from Jessica and pleading voicemails from Daniel. I turned it off. For 1 week, I would let them figure out their own mess. Arizona was exactly what I needed. Sarah's sprawling ranch house sat on 5 acres of red rock desert, far from everything that hurt. She took one look at me at the airport and pulled me into a hug. "Jesus, Maggie, you look like hell. Feel like it too." We didn't talk about it that first night. She just fed me her famous chicken enchiladas, poured me wine, and let me decompress. But the next morning, over coffee on her porch, watching the sunrise paint the rocks gold and crimson, she asked, "Want to talk about it?" I told her everything. She listened without interrupting, her face growing tighter with each detail. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "That ungrateful little bitch," she finally said. I surprised myself by laughing. "Sarah, what, I'm 62 years old. I'll call it like I see it. Your son I feel sorry for. He's weak, but he loves you." Her. She's a manipulative little snake who saw a meal ticket and decided she didn't need the competition. "You think that's what this is, honey. I know that's what this is. I've been married 3 times. I recognize territorial pissing when I see it." She refilled my coffee. "The question is, what are you going to do about it? I don't know. I've already stopped the payments. I've got a lawyer. But Sarah, what if she's right? What if I have been too involved? What if I stop?" Sarah's voice was sharp. "Don't let that woman get in your head. You helped your kid. That's what parents do. What you're not supposed to do is let him and his nasty wife treat you like an ATM and then kick you to the curb." We spent the week hiking, talking, and slowly I felt something shift inside me. Being away from the situation gave me perspective. I wasn't wrong for helping Daniel, but I'd been wrong for not setting boundaries, for not demanding respect, for letting him keep me a secret from Jessica. On Wednesday, I finally turned my phone on. 37 missed calls, 23 text messages. I scrolled through them from Daniel. "Mom, please call me. We need to talk. Mom, the bank is threatening late fees. Mom, please, I'm sorry. Jessica didn't mean what she said. Mom, I'm begging you." From Jessica, the tone was different. "You're being incredibly selfish right now. Daniel is a wreck because of you. Fine, you win. We'll figure out the payment ourselves. This is elder abuse. You know, emotional manipulation." That last one made me laugh out loud. Sarah read over my shoulder and snorted. Elder abuse. The balls on this woman. But then, Friday morning, a different text arrived from Daniel. "Mom, I told Jessica everything about how much you've paid, about how much you've sacrificed. She feels terrible. She wants to apologize. Please, can we just talk? We want to make this right." Sarah read it and shook her head. "Don't fall for it. They're panicking because the mortgage is overdue and their perfect life is crumbling. Maybe Jessica really does feel bad. Or maybe she's realized she miscalculated and is trying to reel you back in." I stared at the message. My instinct was to call immediately, to rush back and fix everything. 32 years of mothering didn't switch off just because I was angry, but something Robert Chen had said echoed in my mind. "Let them come to you. You have the leverage now," I texted back. "I'm out of town for a few more days. We can talk when I return. Glad Jessica knows the truth now." Short, neutral, non-committal. Daniel's response was immediate. "Thank God. Yes, whenever you're ready." "I love you, Mom." I stared at those 3 words. "I love you, Mom." He hadn't said them in months, not since the wedding, maybe. Sarah squeezed my shoulder. "You're doing the right thing. Make them wait. Make them sweat." That evening, Sarah invited her neighbor Gloria over for dinner. Gloria was a family attorney who'd retired to Arizona 5 years ago. Over margaritas, I found myself explaining the situation. Gloria listened carefully, asked sharp questions, and finally said, "Your lawyer's right. You've got leverage." "But Maggie, I've seen 1,000 cases like this. The question isn't what you can do legally. It's what you can live with emotionally. What do you mean you can force the sale? You can demand repayment with interest. You can make their lives hell. But can you live with being estranged from your only child? Because that's what might happen. Some bridges once burned don't rebuild." The question haunted me through my last night in Arizona. I lay awake in Sarah's guest room listening to the desert silence and asked myself the hard question. What did I actually want? Revenge, justice, just basic respect by morning? I knew I wanted my son to choose me, not my money. Me. I wanted him to stand up to Jessica and say, "My mother matters." I wanted him to prove that our relationship meant more than convenience. But I couldn't force that. I could only create the conditions where he'd have to decide. I flew home Sunday with my head clear and my heart guarded. Whatever happened next, I would protect myself first. I'd spent 32 years putting Daniel first. It was time to put myself first instead. They were waiting at my apartment when I got home Sunday evening. Both of them sitting in Daniel's car parked outside my building. My stomach clenched when I saw them, but I kept walking, pulling my suitcase behind me. Daniel got out first. "Mom, please just hear us out." Jessica emerged from the passenger side. She looked different. Subdued makeup lighter, her expression carefully arranged into something approximating contrition. "Margaret, I owe you an apology." I stopped at my building door keys in hand. Every instinct screamed to invite them up to hear them out to make peace. But Sarah's voice echoed in my head. "Don't fall for it." "It's late," I said. "I've been traveling all day." "Please," Jessica said, and her voice actually broke a little. "I've been sick over this. What I said to you about your parenting, about you being alone, it was cruel and wrong. I was stressed about money and I took it out on you. You've been nothing but generous to us. It was a good apology, almost perfect. But there was something rehearsed about it, something too smooth." I looked at Daniel. His face was drawn, exhausted, desperate. "Come inside," I said finally. "But just for a few minutes in my apartment?" They sat on my couch, the same couch Daniel had grown up on, worn but comfortable. Jessica perched on the edge, her hands clasped in her lap. Daniel leaned forward, elbows on his knees. "Mom, I messed up," Daniel started. "I should have told Jessica from the beginning about your help. I should have stood up for you when things were said. I was a coward. It was what I'd wanted to hear. But I noticed what he didn't say, that he was wrong to let it happen, that he'd changed, just that he messed up. Passive like it was an accident. Margaret, I want to make this right." Jessica continued. "I know we can't repay you everything immediately, but we can work out a payment plan. We can formalize it. Put it in writing, and you're absolutely welcome in our home." I overreacted. I was overwhelmed with work stress and planning for... She stopped abruptly. Planning for what I asked. She and Daniel exchanged a glance. "We weren't going to tell you yet," Daniel said. "But Jessica's pregnant. We just found out." The world tilted. A grandchild. My first grandchild. Jessica's hand moved to her stomach, the gesture protective and calculated. "I'm 8 weeks along. The doctor says everything looks good. And Margaret, I want our child to know their grandmother. I want us to be a real family." There it was. The hook, the temptation, a grandchild access to this baby's life in exchange for what? Forgiveness, more money. I sat down carefully in my armchair. "Congratulations. That's wonderful news. We want you involved," Jessica said, leaning forward now. "We want you at doctor's appointments, at the birth, everything. We were wrong to push you away." "And the mortgage?" I asked quietly. Daniel shifted uncomfortably. "We're working on it. My boss mentioned a possible raise coming in the next review cycle, and Jessica can pick up more hours after the first trimester. We just need a little more time." "Time," I repeated. "And in the meantime, we were hoping you could continue helping," Jessica said. "Just temporarily, just until after the baby comes and we get our feet under us." There it was. The real ask, not repayment, not change, just more time, more money, more of me shrinking myself to make their lives comfortable. "And if I don't?" I asked. The mask slipped. Just for a second, I saw Jessica's expression harden. "Then we might lose the house," she said, her voice tighter. "Is that what you want, your pregnant daughter-in-law and your son homeless? Your grandchild born into instability?" "Jessica," Daniel warned. "No." She stood up, her carefully maintained composure cracking. "She needs to hear this. Margaret, you can play victim all you want, but the reality is simple. You can help us, or you can destroy us. Those are the choices. And if you choose to destroy us, what does that say about you? I stood up too." My heart pounding. What it says is that I won't be blackmailed with my own grandchild. Blackmail. Jessica's laugh was ugly now, all pretense gone. "You think this is blackmail? You're the one holding our house hostage. You're the one who stopped payments without warning, who hired a lawyer to threaten us. You want to talk about manipulation? Look in the mirror. I stopped enabling you." I said, my voice hard now. "There's a difference. Mom, please." Daniel stood up, moving between us. We didn't come here to fight. We came to work this out. No, I said, looking past him to Jessica. You came here to manipulate me to use my grandchild as leverage to make me feel guilty for having boundaries. Jessica's face flushed red. You're unbelievable. You know what? Fine. Fine. We'll figure it out ourselves. We don't need you. We don't want you. You can sit in this sad little apartment alone and congratulate yourself on teaching us some lesson while your grandchild grows up not knowing you. Get out, I said. Gladly. Jessica grabbed her purse and stormed toward the door. Daniel lingered, his face anguished. Mom, she's just upset the pregnancy hormones. Daniel, I love you, I said. But if you leave with her now, without standing up for me, without acknowledging that what she just did was wrong, then you're choosing, and I need you to understand that. He looked between me and the door where Jessica was waiting. I saw the war in his face. Then he dropped his eyes. I'm sorry, Mom. I have to think about my family now. His family. Not our family. His. He walked out. The door closed. I stood in my living room, trembling, tears streaming down my face. But underneath the hurt, underneath the fear, I felt something else. Pride. I hadn't caved. I hadn't let them manipulate me with the promise of a grandchild. I'd held my ground even if it cost me everything. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of silence from Daniel, of sleepless nights, of wondering if I'd made the biggest mistake of my life. The mortgage payment came due. I didn't pay it. Another 2 weeks passed. The late fees accumulated. Then, on a Friday morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I almost didn't answer. Mrs. Morrison, this is Cheryl Park from First National Bank. I'm calling regarding the mortgage account for the property at 847 Maple Grove. My heart stopped. Yes, our records show the account is 60 days past due. We've been attempting to contact Mr. and Mrs. Morrison, but we haven't received a response. As co-signer, you're equally responsible for this debt. We need to discuss payment arrangements immediately, or the account will proceed to default status. I understand, I said carefully. Can you tell me the current balance due $4,500, including late fees and penalties? I closed my eyes. I'll come in to discuss this, but I need you to send me complete account documentation first. Payment history, contact logs, everything. Of course. Can we schedule an appointment for early next week? Yes, Wednesday at 10 Unauthorized. When I hung up, my hands were shaking, but my mind was clear. I called Robert Chen. They've let it go to 60 days, I told him. They're not even returning the bank's calls. Are you surprised? Robert asked. They thought you'd blink first. Now they're in panic mode and probably hiding from it. This is when people make mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The kind we can use. Sit tight. Let me make some calls. That afternoon, Robert called back. Margaret, interesting news. I spoke to a colleague who does real estate law. She ran a property search on your son's house. Did you know there's a second lien on the property? What a home equity line of credit. They took it out 4 months ago. $25,000. The room spun. That's impossible. They couldn't qualify. They used the equity from your down payment. It's legal, but it means they've been pulling money out of the house while you've been paying the mortgage. 4 months ago, right when Jessica had started pushing me away harder. What did they use the money for? That I can't tell you. But Margaret, this changes things. They haven't just been taking your money. They've been leveraging the asset you helped them build while actively excluding you from their lives. Something cold and final settled into my chest. What are my options now? The nuclear one just became more appealing. With a second lien and 60 days late, they're underwater. If they default and the house goes to foreclosure, you'll be liable for that debt too. Your best move is to force a sale before that happens. Recover what you can of your investment. Do it, I said. File whatever papers you need to file. Margaret, are you sure? Your son. My son took out a loan against a house I helped him buy and never told me. My daughter-in-law is pregnant, and instead of being responsible, they're hiding from their obligations. I'm sure the legal papers were filed Monday. By Tuesday evening, Daniel was at my door. He looked terrible unshaven. His clothes wrinkled, his eyes bloodshot. Mom, what the A petition to force sale? Are you insane? I'd never heard him curse at me before. I kept my voice level. Come in, we should talk. He stormed past me. Talk, you're trying to take our house. We're about to have a baby and when were you going to tell me about the home equity line? He froze, the color drained from his face. $25,000. I continued, still calm. 4 months ago. What was it for Daniel? What was so important that you borrowed against a house you couldn't afford in the first place? That's not what we needed. He ran his hands through his hair. Jessica's mother was sick. Medical bills. Don't lie to me. My voice was ice now. I can subpoena the records. Where did the money go? His face crumpled. He sank onto my couch head in his hands. When he spoke, his voice was barely audible. The wedding, Jessica's dream wedding. We were supposed to pay it off with her promotion, but she didn't get it. And then things just spiraled. And your wedding was 3 years ago. We've been making minimum payments. The interest just kept. He looked up at me, and for the first time, I saw genuine shame there. Mom, I up. I really up. Jessica kept saying we could manage it, that we just needed a little more time. And I believed her because I wanted to believe her while I paid your mortgage. I know how it looks. How it looks. I sat down across from him. Daniel, you took my retirement savings. You let me pay your bills while you and Jessica borrowed more money for a lifestyle you couldn't afford. And when I asked for basic respect, basic acknowledgement, your wife called me manipulative, and you said nothing. I tried. You didn't try hard enough. My composure finally broke. I'm your mother. I worked myself to the bone for you, and you let that woman treat me like garbage because it was easier than standing up to her. She's my wife, and I'm your mother. When did that stop meaning anything? The silence stretched between us, 32 years of love and sacrifice and disappointment filling the space. Finally, Daniel spoke, his voice hollow. What do you want, Mom? Tell me how to fix this. I looked at my son and saw clearly now. He wasn't going to fix anything. He was going to keep taking the easy road, keep letting Jessica control him, keep expecting me to bail them out. I want you to sell the house, I said. Pay off the mortgage, pay off the equity line, and whatever's left, we split based on what each of us put in. Then you find something you can actually afford. We can't do that. Jessica will. He stopped. Jessica will. What his silence was, answer enough. She doesn't know about the legal filing yet, does she? I asked. You came alone. He shook his head miserably. She's going to be furious, I said. And Daniel, you're going to have to choose. Really choose this time. Your mother, who's trying to protect herself, or your wife, who spent 3 years spending money you don't have. He stood up slowly. I can't believe you're doing this. I can't believe you let it come to this. He left without another word, and this time I didn't cry. I just sat in the quiet of my apartment and waited for the storm I knew was coming. Jessica came the next day without Daniel. She didn't knock. She pounded on my door at 7 in the morning, screaming my name. I opened it to find her makeup-streaked face, her hair wild, her finger jabbing toward me. You vindictive. You're actually doing this. You're taking our house while I'm pregnant. I stepped back, letting her come in before the neighbors heard. She stormed past me, whirling around in my living room. Do you have any idea what you're doing to us? Daniel is having panic attacks. I'm stressed, which is bad for the baby. You're literally endangering your grandchild out of spite. I'm protecting my financial interests, I said calmly. Something you and Daniel should have considered before taking out a home equity loan you couldn't repay. That's none of your business. It became my business when it was secured against property I helped purchase and have been paying for. She laughed wild and bitter. This is what it was always about, wasn't it, control? You wanted to control Daniel forever. Well, congratulations, Margaret. You've done it. You've destroyed him. He can barely get out of bed. Then perhaps he should have thought about that before lying to me for months. We didn't lie. You took out a loan against a house I was paying for and never told me. You spent $25,000 on a wedding while I paid your mortgage. What would you call it? Jessica's face twisted. You're just jealous. You're a bitter old woman who couldn't keep a man who has no life of her own, who tried to live through her son. And now that he has a real family, you can't stand it. I'd heard these words before. They didn't land the same way now. Are you finished? No. She was crying now, angry tears. I'll fight you. We'll counter-sue. We'll tell everyone what you're doing. A grandmother trying to make her pregnant daughter-in-law homeless. We'll ruin you. Go ahead, I said. Tell everyone. Tell them how you took money from a 63-year-old woman for years and then told her she wasn't welcome in your home. Tell them about the secret loans, the debt you've hidden from each other, the lifestyle you couldn't afford. Please, I'd love to hear how that story plays out. She stared at me, breathing hard. You're really going to do this? Yes, even knowing it'll destroy your relationship with Daniel with your grandchild. That part's up to Daniel, I said quietly. I'm not the one who created this situation. I'm just the one refusing to keep enabling it. We'll declare bankruptcy. You'll get nothing. Then you'll get nothing either, and your credit will be destroyed for 7 years. Good luck renting a place with a bankruptcy and an eviction on your record. I watched her face as the reality sank in. She'd been so certain she could guilt me, manipulate me, make me back down. The realization that I wouldn't, that I actually had the power here, hit her like cold water. You really hate us, she whispered. No, I said. I hate what you've made me do, but I won't sacrifice my security for people who don't respect me. She left without another word. The next 3 weeks were brutal. Robert negotiated with their lawyer a legal aid attorney they'd gotten for free. The numbers were stark. They owed $167,000 on the original mortgage, $24,000 on the home equity line, plus late fees. The house was worth approximately $230,000. After closing costs and realtor fees, there would be maybe $25,000 left. Of the original down payment I'd provided, they'd agree to return $45,000, less than I'd put in, but more than I'd get in a protracted court battle. Of the mortgage payments I'd made, they'd return nothing. That was considered rent equivalent for the time I'd been on the title. It wasn't fair, but it was reality. Robert advised me to take it. You're getting back half your money and removing yourself from their financial chaos, he said. That's a win. We scheduled the closing for October 15th. Daniel signed the papers without meeting my eyes. Jessica wasn't even there. Too upset, Daniel mumbled. The house sold quickly to a young couple with better financial sense. On closing day, I watched Daniel sign away the house I'd helped him buy. His hands shook. When it was done, he stood up slowly. I hope you're happy, Mom. I'm not happy, I said. But I'm protected. That's more important. He walked out of the attorney's office. I watched him go and felt nothing. The grief had burned itself out weeks ago. What remained was just tired relief. That evening, I deposited the check for $40,000 into my retirement account. It wasn't enough to replace what I'd lost, but it was something. I'd need to work another few years now, but I could manage. My phone rang, unknown number. I answered. Mrs. Morrison, this is Patricia Kim from Westside Hospital HR. We received your application for the position of a senior charge nurse. Are you still interested? I smiled for the first time in weeks. Yes, very much so. Can you come in Monday for an interview? I'll be there. I hung up and looked around my small apartment. It was quiet, peaceful mine. For the first time in 32 years, I didn't owe anyone anything, and that felt like freedom. 6 months passed. The seasons changed from autumn to winter to early spring, and with them, so did I. I got the senior charge nurse position at West Side Hospital. Better pay, better hours, more respect. My retirement account was slowly rebuilding. I'd started taking yoga classes on Tuesday evenings. My instructor, a woman named Maya, had become a friend. We'd get coffee after class and talk about books, travel, life. I was okay. More than okay, actually. I was learning to live for myself. Through the grapevine, Patricia's daughter was friends with someone who knew someone. I heard bits and pieces about Daniel and Jessica. They'd moved into a small 2-bedroom apartment in a less desirable part of town. Jessica had quit her boutique job entirely. Apparently, the pregnancy was high risk now. Daniel was working overtime, looking haggarded. I felt a pang when I heard that he was still my son. But it was a distant pang, like remembering an old injury that had healed. In February, Sarah flew in from Arizona to visit. We had dinner at a nice restaurant downtown, splitting a bottle of wine. "You look good, Maggie," she said, peaceful. I feel peaceful. Any word from Daniel? Not directly. The baby's due soon. April, I think. You going to reach out? Part of me wants to meet my grandchild, but opening that door means letting them back into my life. I'm not sure I'm ready. What would it take? A genuine apology. Acknowledgement of what they did. Evidence that things have changed. I shook my head. I don't think I'm going to get that. Sarah raised her glass. Then here's to the family we choose. In March, my lawyer called Margaret Daniel, and Jessica's bankruptcy petition was denied. They didn't disclose all their debts. What does that mean for them? Their creditors can pursue them. They're in a worse position than before, and they're being evicted from their apartment. 3 months of back rent. My mother's heart clenched. The baby, Margaret, it's not your problem to solve. He was right. But that night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Jessica pregnant and homeless, about a baby being born into chaos. But then I remembered Jessica calling me a bitter old woman, Daniel's silence, the $25,000 they'd spent while I paid their mortgage. Some lessons can only be learned the hard way in April. I got a text from an unknown number. This is Jessica. Baby was born yesterday. Girl 6 LB30. Her name is Margaret Sarah Morrison. Just thought you should know. I stared at that message for a long time. They'd named her after me and Sarah, an olive branch or manipulation or both. I typed and deleted responses. Finally, congratulations. I hope everyone is healthy. 3 dots appeared, disappeared. Then we're staying with my parents in Ohio. Daniel got a job there, fresh start. I'm sorry for everything. I was wrong about you. If you ever want to meet her, the door is open. The apology I'd wanted, but it came from Jessica, not Daniel. And only after they'd lost everything, I didn't respond. Instead, I went to yoga class. Afterward, Maya invited me to a gallery opening. I went. I met new people. I laughed. I felt light. A week later, Patricia called. "Maggie, my son is getting married in June. Would you like to be my +1 Napa Valley? We could make a weekend of it." "I'd love that," I said. That night, I looked at my small apartment. The apartment I could afford comfortably now, the plants on the windowsill, the bookshelf I'd assembled myself. This was my life now. Small, quiet mine. And I was happy. The text from Jessica sat unanswered on my phone. Some doors once closed, stay closed. Maybe one day I'd meet my granddaughter. Maybe one day Daniel would call instead of having his wife text. But I wasn't holding my breath. and I wasn't holding my life hostage, waiting for them. I'd spent 32 years putting Daniel first. Now I was putting myself first. And that wasn't selfish, it was survival. Looking back now, I realized the hardest thing about setting boundaries with people you love is accepting that they might not love you the same way in return. I'd confused obligation with love, guilt with devotion. Here's what I learned. Helping someone shouldn't cost you everything. Love shouldn't require you to erase yourself. And being a good mother doesn't mean being a doormat. If someone treats your generosity like entitlement, if they demand your sacrifice but offer no respect, you're allowed to walk away, even if they're family. Especially if they're family, what would you have done in my position? Would you have forgiven them? Held your ground? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for listening to my story. Sometimes sharing our truth is the only way to heal from it.